right, so our product presenter has returned to the show, and I'll get things moving now. We're going to present on reliable backup power with Generac today. I'll introduce you to Jeff coming up, and he'll take over. But first, just quick introduction for the webinar and Green Tech. As always, for the webinar, we have additional resources available. You'll see them under handouts. You can see the center of the screen here. Handouts are the tab at the top. And then, of course, just enter your questions as they come up down at the bottom. We will either try to answer them during the webinar or, of course, do a Q&A session at the end. And then, as always, again, too, a recording of today's event will be emailed to everybody who attends. I'm Stuart Fox. I'm the head of Green Tech Renewables Design Services. We provide a wide range of design services, almost anything you can imagine around solar and for any kind of project involving solar and renewable energy, hybrid systems. If you have a Green Tech account, you have 24/7 access to a design team that can help you from project conception all the way to construction documentation and as-builts. We have just specialties ranging from carports to documenting your residential project to satisfy your neighbors at a local level. We can support any size project at Green Tech Renewables Design Services. And then, of course, Green Tech Renewables itself. We're a leading solar energy and renewables provider in the country. Of course, customer-centric approach and a very local approach to the way we run this nationwide business. There are 90 locations in the major solar markets of the US, and every one of them is tailored to that local market with products and services. Even the design services team, our services and our practices are designed for those markets through your local Green Tech. The warehouses, of course, offer extensive inventory. You can pretty much build any project from start to finish, from one trip to a Green Tech warehouse. We have logistics support, finance services, pretty much everything you need, start to finish. Of course, the core values are service, integrity, and reliability. And that's the last of the intro slides. I'm going to hand this off to Jeff McAndrew, Director of Sales for North America for Generac.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stuart. Stuart, can you just confirm that you can hear me okay?
You sound great.
Perfect. All right. Thank you all for the introduction. My name is Jeff McAndrew. As Stuart mentioned, I'm the Director of Sales for Generac Clean Energy here. For those of you who've been in the industry for a while, we may have met in the past. I've been with this technology for almost 6 years now. So I'm looking forward to introducing it to you today if I haven't already in the past. Before I get started, huge thank you to our friends at Green Tech Renewables. We've been partners for many years, honestly, since I started with the platform back in 2017. And I'll say our contractors love their level of service, local support. Some of the ancillary services that Stuart had just mentioned as well are a huge, huge value add to our contractors. And it's great to be able to get some of those design services, especially from the same place that you're buying the product from, and then they'll deliver it right to the job site. So our contractors love working with Green Tech, and if you're not already, you should definitely consider it. So throughout the presentation, I'm going to talk about Generac as a company. Just briefly, I'm mostly going to focus on the PWRcell solar and storage technology and its various advantages. At the end, we'll have time for a Q&A, of course. My goal coming out of this is for you to say, I want to become a Generac partner and offer PWRcell to my customers. If you have questions that are holding you up from that at the end of the presentation, you can air those in the Q&A. Of course, I've got a team of great people across the country who can also further answer questions for you when we connect you after the presentation today. So Generac, for those of you who don't know, we're based in Waukesha, Wisconsin. We've been around for over 60 years. which is pretty unheard of in this industry. It means we've actually been around longer than the warranties that we put on our products, which is pretty rare in this space. And over that last 60 years, we've grown to be a 10,000 employee global company, though many of those positions are in the US, where we have over 5 manufacturing facilities for various products that we sell. We're manufacturing in Wisconsin, as well as Trenton, South Carolina. And as a company, we're on a mission to be a leader in transforming how we generate, use, and distribute energy. We've got millions of customers, actually around 3 million customers that have a home standby generator at their home, which is pretty wild considering there are roughly 3 million resi rooftop systems installed throughout North America. But really, I say all this because working with a reliable company's products is so important in this industry where, number one, the ticket item is really high. We're talking, $30, $40, $50, $100,000 in some cases, depending on how much storage they need or how complex the site is. And it's expected to operate over decades. This is not a 1, 2, 3, 5-year investment. You need to be partnered with a company that will stand behind its warranty for the life of the product. And that is part of why it is so powerful to partner with Generac. So we're laser focused on building products that can help homeowners produce and store their own energy so that they can use it when they want or need to. And with that, we're also helping homeowners reduce the amount of energy that they consume, which may come in the form of a load control device like our Power Manager, which we'll discuss, or even an Ecobee thermostat, which can generate savings of over 20% for homes that have high HVAC loads. We're very much working to help build out the Grid 2.0, where behind the meter assets like batteries, of course, electric vehicle chargers, thermostats, hot water heater switches, etc., can all be used to stabilize the utility grid. A couple years back, we acquired a company called Enbala, and their platform allows us to help utilities mitigate demand events like we see all over the country nowadays. And we're able to leverage that technology to tap into these behind the meter resources and create value, for the grid, and generally just provide a more resilient and frankly a smarter grid. All right, let's jump into the PWRcell platform. Before we get into product specifically, we're going to talk about the applications that this platform serves. So first and foremost, PWRcell can be used as a grid-tied solar inverter with our optimizers to save homeowners money, the same way the existing 2 to 3 million existing PV systems in the US have been installed. We don't require a battery with our system. It just so happens that the vast majority of our systems are installed with a battery. In fact, we have contractors who like selling PWRcell as a PV-only platform so that they can easily upsell batteries in the future when a grid outage hits or when a virtual power plant comes online in that market. Historically, backup power, of course, has been the universal value proposition for batteries. Our system is extremely well suited for this application, which we'll discuss a little bit more in future segments here. But the reason I say backup was the universal value proposition is because now we're starting to see a dramatic shift from utilities to either sub 1-to-1 net metering, so homeowners not getting credit for 100% of what they're exporting out to the grid, or they're imposing time of use rates, all of which PWRcell is really well prepared for. Customers who are in time of use markets benefit from the fact that we're DC coupled. We can charge and discharge our batteries more efficiently than just about any of our competitors, which means all things being equal, we should save customers in these markets more money. And that's certainly true for the next application beyond TOU, which is really utilities, where utilities are limiting net metering by disincentivizing it, so sub 1-to-1 net metering, or you're not allowed to export any electricity back to the grid, like we see in places like Hawaii. So here again, because we're predominantly DC coupled, we excel. We operate very efficiently when it comes to cycling our batteries daily. This is also a key application for the don't tread on me homeowners who just don't want to give their utility any help by net metering, even if it is available. Some of you in markets like California might think that's crazy, but it does happen all around the country. And what you're seeing here on the right is a screenshot of one of our customers in self-supply who's literally not buying any power from the utility over a 24-hour period. We have thousands of customers that are operating this way. So basically, like with NEM 3 in California, we're going to start seeing this in other markets. Like we're starting to see it in Michigan. We're starting to see it with Duke in the Carolinas. We already see it in Puerto Rico. We've seen it in Tennessee. Basically, we've got homeowners who want to eliminate, if they can, buying from the utility or selling solar back unless all of their household consumption is met. The way this works is the battery powers the house through the evening. It covers the early morning rush of electricity in the house where the sun is still limited. So you'll see the coffee pots highlighted, the fridge is highlighted. We're starting to make our kids breakfast and get them out the door to school. And then as the sun comes up, the solar powers the house and starts to recharge the battery simultaneously. In the middle of the day, the battery is fully charged. We're covering all of the loads in the house, and now we're discharging power to the grid only after all the loads in the house have been covered. And then the evening time comes, the battery kicks back in, and we make it throughout the course of the day without buying any power from the grid. That would be represented by purple on this chart, which would be electricity from grid. This is how we're expecting pretty much every system in California going forward to operate. But it's not just California and NEM 3. This is various other markets. More and more utilities are starting to adopt less lucrative net metering policies, and batteries are the solution to that. We do also serve this niche market where homeowners get hit with demand charges. Obviously, this is mostly a commercial thing with demand charges, but we do have the ability to, in a house, tell our batteries to kick in if and only if the house starts to consume a certain amount of power, or if there's a grid outage, of course. Mostly we've seen this in markets like Arizona. So we can say, hey, PWRcell inverter, only discharge battery capacity if the house starts to consume more than 3 kilowatts. And once that hits, then we'll discharge the battery and try to shave that peak so that we're no longer pulling more than 3 kW from the house. Hopefully we can bring the homeowners into a lower rate class. And then last but not least, all of our inverters are VPP ready. Virtual power plant is VPP. We've got a super aggressive grid services team going after projects, trying to bring on more of these opportunities to the market. As these come online, we look to partner with high quality contractors to deliver installs in a targeted region. Generally, the utility is helping us provide an incentive to the homeowner for opting in. We've got programs where this incentive is $1,000 to a homeowner, $4,000 off invoice to a homeowner, all the way up to $10,000 or more for being part of a 5-year program. So it's pretty impactful. We're really excited to see this at Generac because we feel like this is the way the grid needs to evolve. We need to start tapping into more behind the meter assets, compensating homeowners to do so instead of building peaker plants. We've worked programs like this in the Northeast, Arizona, California, Hawaii. We're working on programs in the Midwest and Southeast as well. It's really exciting to see, even utilities in what we would generally consider less progressive states adopting virtual power plant programs. It's really, really exciting. All right, so we talked about the applications. What I really want to focus on is the differentiation for PWRcell. In my opinion, the 2 applications that are most important, and of course, that's backup power and self-supply. And so in terms of backup power, our system, our batteries are more powerful on a per kilowatt hour basis than most of our competitors. So many of our contractors will sell one of our 18 kilowatt hour battery stacks instead of 2 of some of our competitors, like 2 Encharge 10s or 2 Tesla Powerwalls. And the benefit here is that it's not the KW that costs money, it's the KWH, right? It's the capacity, it's the kilowatt hours. And so when you can offer a battery that has more power per kilowatt hour, you are oftentimes able to sell the homeowner fewer batteries to back up just as much of the house, right? And with a lot of our competitors, and similarly with our system with only 3 or 4 battery modules, you likely are only going to be backing up the essentials. But if you're putting 6 battery modules in our cabinet for 18 usable kilowatt hours, we're going to give you much more power than our competitors on a per kilowatt hour basis. And our customers are seeing that they're able to sell fewer batteries because of that. And that's going to reduce the price of the job to the homeowner, which is incredibly important right now with interest rates being so incredibly high. In addition to having more powerful batteries on a per kilowatt hour basis, the Power Manager, which is our load control device I'll introduce to you, allows us to automatically manage those large 240 volt loads in an outage so that we aren't overwhelming the system, causing a brownout or blackout when the grid goes down. This is a huge differentiator, and it'll help your business from getting unpleasant calls in a grid outage. Anyone who's been selling batteries for a couple of years now knows that, look, batteries are only so powerful, and if the grid goes down and you're charging an electric vehicle and the electric range turns on, or a 310 AC unit kicks on, if there's no way of managing those loads, then the system's going to be overwhelmed, and in a grid outage, your customer is likely going to lose power. And if that happens, it's a really, really tough customer experience. Our Power Manager automatically turns up to 6 240 volt loads off if the system's being overloaded, and then back on based on battery capacity availability. So we're not just load shedding. This is not just a load shed device. It is a load management device. The difference is there are competitive products where a grid goes down, it'll shed devices. Great. What if I wanted to run my electric range or my 3-ton AC unit? This device will automatically turn those loads back on in the grid outage. It'll just turn them off to prevent the overloading of the system. And this, in combination with those more powerful batteries, is what allows our contractors to sell a more competitive system that, frankly, backs up as much or more of the home than many of our competitors. If the homeowner does want to manually intervene and manage loads, all they need to do is open up their PowerView mobile application, which provides second-by-second data. We have a cell kit that also provides second-by-second data. They're going to open up the PowerView mobile application, see that the grid is down. They're going to see how much power their system's producing, what the battery state of charge is, how much power the house is consuming. And then they can click right on the Power Manager icon in the bottom center. They can see and monitor those 6 loads, and then they can click on the load that they want to manage, turn it off, and then carry on with their day. The story I always tell is a true story. I was traveling with my family to Pennsylvania over the holidays, and I live in the Northeast. And so if anyone's joining from like Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, they'll remember that on Christmas Eve, there was a grid outage. And it lasted upwards of half a day or so. And so I got a notification on my phone the day before, actually, that there was potential for a grid outage. I got a notification on my phone when there was a grid outage. And then I was able to open my app and see how much power my house was consuming. We weren't home. And I was able to see my house is pulling 5 kW. And I'm thinking, what on earth is pulling 5 kilowatts in my house? So I click into the Power Manager, and I can actually see that my electric hot water heater was just, you know how they are. They cycle on, they cycle off, they cycle on, they cycle off to keep the water at 126 degrees. Well, I was able to turn that load off and extend the life of my battery in that outage. That is a true story. And honestly, it's exactly when a homeowner is going to want to manage loads. Some of our competitors' products require you to manage the loads. Again, this product automatically manages up to 6 of those 2-pole breakers or 240 volt loads. And you can intervene and turn them on or off if you would like. And it's pretty easy to do. We've got contractors who sell a Power Manager in lieu of an additional battery, which helps them win more jobs. They're differentiated at the kitchen table because instead of saying, oh, you want to back up more than lights, fridge, and outlets, well, you're going to need another power wall. You're going to need much, double the energy storage or triple, et cetera. So they're able to be more cost competitive. They can always add more storage in the future, but a lot of our contractors find that the 18 kilowatt hour battery covers a lot of the need. It's just better technology. Homeowner gets visibility, control. Homeowners love being able to see the Power Manager in their app, see how much power different loads are consuming. It helps our contractors make more money, better margin, fewer labor hours. This device takes like 2 hours to install. And so we put in just a quote here. We're talking to a contractor and we're talking to them about, hey, your battery or your Power Manager attachment rate is really high. And they said, yeah, we just say to homeowners, hey, we can quote a second battery for $15,000 to $20,000 to power more of the house. But for most customers, we recommend that we install Generac's load management device for $5,000 and automatically manage the loads in the home. The device retails for less than $1,000 MSRP. And so if you tack on a few labor hours, it gives you an opportunity to just literally make more margin without having to sell that additional battery. Lastly, in terms of backup power, we back up the house from the sun first, always. We've always done this. Some of our AC coupled competitors often have to toggle on and off a solar inverter in a grid outage so that the solar produced doesn't exceed what's being consumed in the house or by the battery. And when that happens, you can run into kind of common daytime scenarios where the solar is turning on and turning off, and that could lead to a battery that isn't full going into the nighttime. So in our case, not only are we charging and discharging our batteries more efficiently, we're also keeping the solar array on all day. There's no risk of us shutting off the PV array. If the battery's full and there's nowhere for us to send power other than to the house, our optimizers will load follow, and essentially they'll just match the consumption of the house with solar production. The battery's adaptable. It's not installed in 9, 10, 13.5 kilowatt hour increments, which is great. We've got customers who start with 9 kilowatt hours. They want essentials backup, or they just want time of use cycling, et cetera. And I mean, we saw this a lot in Northern California where homeowners were using batteries just for backing up the essentials and doing time of use and PG&E. And then the proactive safety power shutoff started, and homeowners started using their batteries more and more for backup. And they wanted to extend the amount of time that they had outage protection. And so we've got contractors who've added batteries after proactive safety power shutoffs in Northern California. I should also mention, because we're DC coupled, you can really use any battery size with any amount of PV. Like you're not forced into using two 18 kilowatt hour batteries because you have a 12 kilowatt array. With some of our competitors with an AC coupled system, because you want to limit the amount of solar that's on an AC coupled battery, otherwise the battery is going to have to more frequently turn off that third-party PV inverter in a grid outage. Sometimes you end up designing a battery around the size of the PV array, but we have customers who have like a 4 or 5 kW PV array, but they want a lot of backup power duration. Like they want a lot of outage protection for long duration. So we can have a 5 kilowatt array with 36 kilowatt hours of storage. On the flip side, we have customers like in Florida who've got an 11, 12 kW array, but they just want 9 kilowatt hours. They just want a little bit of backup. And in that case, no problem. You can still use one of our 7.6 kW inverters with that slightly oversized array and a 9 kilowatt hour battery. Because again, in an outage, we're just going to load follow. My last plug on this battery is that it is plug and play. When I say that, I mean you're just running 3 10-gauge cables from the battery to the inverter. It's positive, negative, and ground. When you enable the inverter, the battery automatically pops up. All you need to do is then enable the battery. It's like 2 clicks at the inverter. You can adjust minimum state of charge for arbitrage or self-supply, but generally, once you enable the inverter and you enable the 3 to 5 optimizers and battery, the system is pre-configured and ready to go. So I had alluded to this, but lastly, the PWRview mobile app is going to help prepare your homeowners for a grid outage by notifying them when there's a risk of a weather-related outage. This is called Outage Guard. It's a functionality that homeowners can opt into. It'll automatically charge batteries up to 24 hours before an anticipated outage. And then when the grid does fail, they'll be made aware that they're operating in backup mode, like I mentioned. And at this time, they should start to consider what loads they're running so they can maximize the longevity of their battery. And then lastly, within PWRview, they'll be able to manage and monitor those loads connected to the Power Manager device. All right, next we'll talk about self-supply. The core markets for this right now are Hawaii, now California under NEM 3, Puerto Rico, and I mentioned a few others. We're starting to see this in Michigan, North Carolina, Tennessee. There are a growing number of other locations where the utility isn't paying one-to-one net metering, and you're actually better off just consuming the electricity you produce, then sending it back to the grid. The two major advantages are with our platform that if sized appropriately, we'll better utilize the whole PV array with less clipping, and then we'll charge and discharge our batteries more efficiently than our AC coupled competitors would. which, those two things combined are going to lead to more kilowatt hours going to the home and just a better savings result for the homeowner. The reality is a lot of installers today are putting panels that are oversized by 30+% on micros. And one of the core advantages of our platform is that we're not going to clip at the panel level. We've got 2,500 watt optimizers. You're generally putting 6 to 7 400, 420 watt modules on each one of these optimizers. And then because we're DC coupled, we take the optimized DC solar power, we send it right into the battery. All batteries charge from DC. For those of you who are newer to batteries, all batteries charge inherently from DC. Tesla, Enphase, Franklin, it doesn't matter. The battery cells charge from DC. The difference is our platform takes DC solar from the roof, puts it right into those batteries to charge them as DC, and then we only invert it one time, taking it from the battery and sending it to the house. We invert it from DC to AC. Whereas our competitors are taking, a 400 watt panel on the roof, potentially clipping it depending on the time of the year, and then inverting it into AC. And then that battery is taking that AC power, inverting it back to DC, charging the battery, inverting it back to AC, and sending it to the house. The problem with that is you just end up with a significant portion of what you started with on the roof could be lost. And that may not be so important if you're just buying the battery for backup power. But where we now have homeowners in California that are charging and discharging these batteries on a daily basis under NEM 3, those savings really, really add up, especially if you can factor in the advantages we have by not clipping at the panel level. The other, really just to that point, to be totally clear, if we have 10 kilowatts of PV on the roof, we can send 7 through the inverter to the grid while we're recharging the battery with the other 3. So if you're selling a 10 kW array, you can actually utilize all of the panel's production capabilities. The other thing that I'll mention is, this is slightly specific to California. It's just that it's a 7.6 kW inverter. And so you are always landing on a 40 amp breaker in the main. So even with a 10, 11, 12 kW PV array, we frequently have contractors oversizing the inverter and just making sure that they've got the battery capacity to absorb it. And they're able to do that interconnecting on a 40 amp breaker. So they're avoiding main panel upgrades really at all costs, of course. The result here, just to bring this all together, is that you're going to have a better ROI for homeowners in markets where you're cycling batteries on a daily basis. So to recap, on the 2 applications that I highlighted, backup power and self-supply, we've got more powerful batteries, which means you can use fewer of them. That's especially true when they're paired with our Power Manager load management device. From a self-supply perspective, we're going to maximize what we can use from the PV array, and we're going to cycle our batteries more efficiently. Cycling, when I say cycling, I just mean charge and discharge more efficiently, which produces more kilowatt hours in a day and enhances the return for the homeowner. In the spirit of returns, I should also be clear that we are going to be extremely cost competitive when compared to our leading competitors. I expect that that over many of them, we can save you quite a bit of money on a per project basis, especially if you're using batteries. And so definitely work with myself, the market development managers, and your green tech rep to look at that pricing. All right, let's dive into the ecosystem. So on a high level, the platform, as you've gathered, is a fully integrated solar and storage platform comprised of optimizers, inverters, batteries, and load management. And I'm pretty sure every manufacturer calls their platform fully integrated these days. But what I mean when I say that is you've got a group of components that automatically recognize each other and work together. From a commissioning perspective, again, once you enable the inverter, your 3 to 5 optimizers and your battery pop up on the screen, and you enable them with like 2 clicks on the inverter screen. It's the same for the battery. The devices recognize each other. They're pre-configured so that you don't spend all day or all week in some cases programming the system. If you want to change set points, there are probably less than 5 that you'd actually change, and it would take an extra minute or 2. From a homeowner perspective, they've got 1 mobile application for production, consumption, and load management, as you saw on one of the previous screens. The inverter is the hub of the system. Every system requires an inverter. You're not just going to sell the battery. you need the inverter. Ours is a 7.6 kW hybrid inverter, meaning you'll directly connect solar and storage to a single unit. There's a place to land up to 15 kilowatts of DC solar on the inverter and up to 36 kilowatt hours of storage on the inverter. One of the great things about this inverter is that, again, because it's DC coupled, you can oversize it quite a bit. So instead of clipping at 7.6 kW, we'll just route that excess solar on the roof into the battery to charge it as long as it's not fully charged. The inverter allows for a partial home, or we're seeing much more commonly managed whole home backup power, depending on what you'd like to accomplish. It also allows for the use of storage without providing backup. And we do actually see some contractors offering that in California and in Hawaii in some cases. Lastly, the unit's got a number of operating modes that accomplish a wide variety of needs that we discussed in the applications section of this presentation, but we're really well suited to reliably back up the house or save your customers money with time of use schedules that are pre-programmed. Before moving on, I'll just mention that we do have a cell kit. I know I mentioned it previously, but I want to reiterate. We got a cell kit. We provide second-by-second data to homeowners, fleet managers, so yourselves, the contractors, and our support team, which helps provide a great customer experience when they can see in real time how much solar they're producing, how much power their house is consuming. It provides you a better experience being able to look into a system remotely and see very quickly what's happening with it, and same for us. So if there's a question about something happening on site, our tech support team is able to more quickly diagnose problems because we're not waiting 5 minutes or whatever to see an update. We're seeing second-by-second updates. On the roof, we're optimizing multiple panels at a time with our PV Link optimizer. We're accomplishing rapid shutdown with our Snap Arrest device. This Snap Arrest device is the RS802. We've done extensive testing to make sure these units perform as expected. And for any contractors that did have issues with 801s in the past, we've paid out around $1,000 to $1,200 on average to roll trucks to replace those units with these. Today, we continue to replace 801s with 802s proactively. And I mentioned this proactively in the presentation because, in my opinion, this is actually a great example of why Generac is such a good partner in this industry. We are going to stand by our product, we stand by our warranty, and we back up our contractors. All right, let's discuss the battery. Our NEMA 3R battery cabinet, again, it holds between 9 and 18 kilowatt hours of capacity in 3 to 6 kilowatt hour battery modules. The modularity is great because contractors aren't moving 400-pound batteries around with a whole crew. Usually a helper's putting in the bracket for the battery modules, and then the just really plugging in the pre-wired and pre-configured wiring into the battery modules while the electrician's installing the inverter or the ATS. It is a single person job really to install the battery cabinet itself. Again, the unit's DC coupled, so we're charging the battery as DC. It's leaving the battery as DC. We're inverting it one time, so we're going to operate more efficiently. And again, the reason we keep mentioning that is it's just becoming so important in markets like California, where you want a system to operate as efficiently as possible. The battery is powerful on a per kilowatt hour basis, as we mentioned. I just want to show, again, these options here between 3 and 6 battery modules. As you stack more battery modules in the unit, you're getting not just more capacity, like kilowatt hour capacity, you're also getting more power output. And so the 6 battery module configuration, 18 kilowatt hours, is pushing 9 kW max continuous power output and up to a 50 amp peak. Not only can we push more power when the grid goes down, but we can also pull more power. And what I mean is the charging speed is much faster than some of our competitors. So for example, a Powerwall can charge at roughly 5 kW. Our full battery cabinet can charge at 10 kW. So literally twice as fast and frankly more efficiently. And this is really, really important in an outage. You can start with 9 kilowatt hours, as I mentioned, grow the system as needed to meet your homeowner's needs as their needs evolve. Of course, we've got a transfer switch for whole house disconnect, so you're not wiring protected loads to a sub panel if you don't need to. That being said, we do also have 100 amp options on the ATS for partial home configurations. But if you want to do whole home, great. You want to do partial home, no problem. And then the power manager. In my opinion, this is our largest differentiator for the platform. Again, we're automatically managing up to 6 240 volt loads in the home. The unit is under $1,000 MSRP, usually installs in less than 2 hours. Folks, like I said, they ask us, how does this compare to a span panel? The key points I'd mention are this automatically turns loads not just off, but back on in an outage, which is not, to my understanding, how the span panel operates. And it gives you the ability to also manage those circuits. And secondly, it's the price point. We're just going to be much more cost competitive. This installs between the circuits and the load center, so the main service panel. And the reason that's important is because we're able to avoid main panel upgrades, which a lot of our competitors are not. All right, we've discussed the applications, the advantages. We focused on the backup power applications, self-supply advantages. We talked about the core components in the system. And now in terms of next steps, the first step is for you to connect with your market development managers. So please reply to the follow-up emails coming from GreenTech, coming from Generac. We'll reach out to you proactively in addition to that to make sure that you know who you can reach out to if you have any additional questions. The map here shows our market development managers throughout the country. I'm going to leave this up for just a few more seconds in case anyone is taking note. And of course, we can make this available for you as well. From there, we're going to want to schedule sales training for your team while we're simultaneously reviewing pricing, bill of materials that you'll receive from GreenTech. Once you get a few systems sold, then we're going to want to make sure that your technical team is prepared to install. We're going to want installers to attend our online certification training, which is just a 4-hour learn as you go install training course, an online learning management system. And then once you're a few weeks out from install, we want to review one-lines, plans, and we would also want to plan to have someone on site for that first install so that we can use it as a teaching opportunity. We want to provide white glove support to our contractors. We want to be there for the first install. We want to see one-lines. This is not an inconvenience to us. This is part of us making sure that you're going to have a great experience when it comes time for that first install. Regarding first install support, it's a good time to mention that we've got tech support across all 3 regions between the East Coast, Central, and the West Coast. We continue to build out that team to make sure that we're providing excellent support to our contractors. We've also got sales applications engineers spread out throughout the country, heavily focused in the Northeast, the Southeast, the Midwest, and the West. And this team is continuing to grow as well. The idea for these folks, the applications engineers, is to help with those first installs. They'll help us with training. And if you run into sites that have really interesting or challenging configurations, these folks are in the field and ready to help. We also have, I should mention, PowerFleet, which provides you with end-to-end system monitoring and support, something our contractors like about using our system versus inverters from company A, battery from company B, load management from company C, rooftop shutdown from company D, is that they can see everything in our platform in one place. So they can see if there's a problem on the roof, if something wasn't connected properly and a PD link is showing low sun. They're going to see that in the app, or excuse me, in the web-based platform. If there's a question with the inverter, the battery, or the power manager, they can see all of that remotely. We push notifications if there's a problem on site. We will also provide basically troubleshooting guides within PowerFleet so that if your team sees, hey, my inverter is showing no connectivity, and I highlight over that or click that, it'll tell me what that means and how to remedy that how to remedy that problem. We've got a ton of resources for our installers online that can be made available to you in the follow-up from our friends at GreenTech. Definitely make sure you look into our Clean Energy YouTube page as well. If you're curious what the system looks like once it's installed, how to install it, how to program various components, we've got a bunch of videos on there that are really, really helpful for our contractor. Once you've completed that first install, you'll be able to access your $1,000 buy and try reward. Essentially, we're going to write you a check for giving us a chance. We know you're going to have a good experience. We're running this throughout the course of the year. You'll just buy your system from Green Tech, install the system, register it on PowerFleet, and then fill out and submit the redemption form. This is as simple as it gets. Easy money. On top of the buy and try, I want to make you aware we're running our buy 5, get 1 promo, which literally saves thousands of dollars on a system. If you buy 5 battery modules, you're getting this, essentially you're getting all battery modules at a discount such that if you buy 6 battery modules, the 6th one is essentially free. Okay, so we've discounted battery modules pretty much by a 1/6 so that you can offer more capacity for your homeowners at a lower price. We've also launched a tiered dealer program. Our marketing team's done a great job pulling this together. This rewards our contractors for growing with Generac and growing with PWRcell. We offer leads, which we're expecting to turn up here quite a bit in the back half of this year and going into next year. We offer priority on our dealer locator. Believe it or not, we get tons of hits on our dealer locator, homeowners looking for who they can call as a contractor for PWRcell. You get access to marketing dollars, as well as escalated warranty reimbursement for contractors as they grow with us. So there's all these reasons to join Generac, aside from just being a great partner to our contractors, having an awesome platform that's differentiated, that's going to help you sell more, make more money. We're also going to give you great tools and resources to make sure that your business is successful. All right, I would love to take this time for some Q&A. If you just give me a second, I will pull up the chat box. There's a great question about sales economics. Can a California homeowner take a loan for solar plus storage at current interest rates and pay less per month than they currently pay? We haven't seen this pencil most of the time. It's more per month than what the customer currently spends with the utility. You know, it's to answer the question, yes. It's not always, and for some folks maybe who are coming into this from a different perspective or are used to be able to selling a homeowner on savings day one, what we're seeing in California is anywhere between a 7 and 9 year payback roughly with energy storage, depending on the size of the battery, the size of the PV array, et cetera. But tremendous savings over the life of the asset, like, tons. And I mean, we're talking like, significant savings. You're still generating a much better ROI in California under NEM 3 than contractors are in other lower cost of electricity markets. And the thing you have going for you in California is that those utility rates have been escalating so much greater than the average of 3-4% or whatever we figure into our tools. So absolutely, you might not be able to, with today's interest rates, say, hey, we're going to replace your utility bill with an equal or smaller sized financing payment. But over the life of the system, these homeowners are going to save still tons and tons of money. It still makes sense economically, for sure. Can the system dark start? The question is yes. The system will automatically, well, there are two things here. We can black start the system, which is really like there's absolutely no grid connection whatsoever. You can jumpstart the system and turn it all on right from the battery. There's enough capacity to make that happen. And those instructions are right in the manual. It's pretty simple to do. You toggle the battery disconnect switch 3 times. And so yes, you can start the system without a grid connection, but also if the battery hits a low state of charge, like it's minimum, we call it min SOC absolute, min state of charge absolute. If the battery hits that in a grid outage, every couple minutes or so, or it's either 20 minutes to an hour, I'm not remembering offhand, we will basically bring up the DC bus and try to start making power on the roof every 20 to 60 minutes. And what that means is if the battery fully depletes at 3 a.m., by 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. when the panels have the ability to produce, the battery will automatically jumpstart the PV array and the entire system. And the homeowner, in some cases, may not even know until they see their clocks that the house lost power in the middle of the night. So yes, we can dark start a system. or essentially jumpstart it from the battery without a grid connection. And then the system will do that automatically once, once it's commissioned, if the battery hits its min state of charge, absolute. Can the system work fully off-grid with no grid connection? We've got systems that have been running without a grid connection for long periods of time. Because the platform dates back to like Hurricane Maria days, we get systems that were islanding for like 6 months or so. We are not targeting the off-grid market. The system is designed for, grid-tied solar and storage for resiliency. There are various reasons why we're not targeting off-grid, but for the most part, it's 99% of the market is grid-tied solar and storage, and we can service those customers generally much faster than we can support customers who don't have a grid connection. And because of that, we, like many of our competitors, try to standardize so that we can offer the best level of support to our contractors. But it's a great question. Can a power manager be used to allow full home electrification on the existing 100 amp panel? No, I shouldn't say no. The way the power manager works is you've got 12 120 volt relays that are rated for 60 amps each. I say that you're only going to manage 240 volt loads because they're the only loads in the house that really need to be managed, right? Single pole breakers generally don't pull enough to justify needing to be managed. That being said, there are definitely times where I'd like to be able to get into the power manager and with the click of a button, like turn off the all electricity in my kid's room. So if you have a 100 amp panel with 12 120 volt loads, or a combo of 120s and 240s that will all fit into the power manager, then for sure you can do that. But you're still going to have to extend those circuits into the power manager. It's a great question. Can you land your controlled 7.8 kW inverter on a 40 amp and 100 amp panel with an inverter controlled to only clip the total flow to 120 amps to meet the 120% rule? Great question. This is something so we are 1741, I believe it's PCS CRD or CRD PCS certified. So we have the ability to power limit. Whether or not the utility will accept that or the AHJ will accept that is going to be on a local basis. But we absolutely have the ability to limit the power output of our inverter. And we lock that down so that it cannot be changed after the fact. We give you a really slick tool on site so that you can generate a utility compliance report very quickly once you've made that change, and then you can show it right to the utility or email it to them. It comes in as a PDF. You can do it from your phone or laptop, etc. So we've got the ability to do it. Whether or not the utility will allow it is another question. Is it okay to have inverter and battery with no solar? Absolutely. We have systems out there for condos, etc., that are just using inverters and energy storage. I expect we're going to see a lot of that with grid services where utilities want the batteries to tap into when they want the capacity, but don't necessarily want the solar installed. So I expect we will see some of that. Can the power manager be retrofitted to a system that is not Generac based? No, it cannot. You need an inverter. You need to be able to register a PWRcell inverter in order to register a power manager. We do get this question from time to time. My response would be, going forward, let's make sure we're selling a PWRcell. Do you offer panels with optimizers, and what is the typical lead times? That's a question for GreenTech. Stuart, I don't want to speak for your team. GreenTech is an incredibly well-stocked distributor on various products, and Stuart, I can let you take over on that, but it's pretty generalized question, but they've got what you need.
Yeah, sure. We do offer, of course, panels with optimizers, but I wonder can we actually use optimizers with the Generac string optimizer?
It is. I think the question is, do you offer panels with the optimizers, and what is typical lead times? I think the question is more, do we also offer panels? And the question is no.
Right.
GreenTech offers panels. One of the benefits of our platform, and frankly with most platforms today, is that we're panel agnostic. If you like working with Q cells, you can work with Q cells. If you like REC, you can work with REC, etc. But but yeah, Green Tech is well stocked and everything that you need.
Thanks.
You bet. Okay, yeah. The question, Stuart, was does Generac offer panels? And no, we do not. And as far as I know, we are not. That's not a business we're looking to expand into. That is the extent of the questions right now. Actually, we've got one more here. Can an EV be used as capacity charging as currently configured or future? No, you cannot use an EV to charge the battery today, but bidirectional charging with EVs is definitely something that is being looked at. Generac is launching an EV charger at the beginning of next year. That'll just be a standard level 2 EV charger, but we definitely have eyes on the potential of bidirectional EV charging. I just want to clarify from the off-grid questions that while the system is designed to operate without a grid connection when the grid fails, we are not proactively seeking off-grid applications. So yes, will it work? Yes, the system is capable of doing that, but it's not a market that we target. DC generator backup or traditional AC genset? We have AC generator integration today. I have my house set up with AC gen integration. It's great. The Generac home standby generator kicks in to recharge the battery when it hits a low state of charge, or it kicks in to take over large loads in the house, like my geothermal system, if that's running. So AC generator integration is available today. The DC generator is expected to ship, I believe, in Q4. We've got a 9 kW DC gen that'll plug right into the inverter called the power generator. And that'll be a pretty cool device that just offers really efficient, quiet, low maintenance charging of the battery when the grid goes down and you need to recharge your battery. All right. One last question here, and then we can wrap up. Stuart, can this work with any other AC coupled micros from companies? Example, Chilicon, which is hilarious because we own Chilicon. No, today we are not offering AC coupling with the PWRcell platform. This is a functionality that we looked into for a long time. And we've decided that we're going to wait until next gen to focus on AC coupling. So for now, we're very much recommending and prioritizing DC coupling as the architecture for the system. Awesome questions. Stuart, anything else to add on your side?
No, Jeff, I don't think so. That was great. It was a good presentation. We really like designing with the products, and I really like the Power Manager. I think it's kind of the best solution out there right now, and most effective, most best impact per dollar, so to speak. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We appreciate your time.